Welcome to episode 196 of Credit 101. In this episode, we're going to talk about security freezes. What is it? Why you need to do it? And how is this going to help? So the first thing is what is a security freeze? Now, when it comes down to knowing exactly what a security freeze is, it's just a basic definition. It's a restriction that's placed on your credit report, and it prevents lenders and creditors from accessing your credit report. This makes it harder for identity thieves to actually open new accounts in your name. So that's what a security freeze is. Now, how to place a freeze is all you have to do is really call all three credit bureaus, or you can do it online. So you can go to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion's website, and I actually have them on my blog. So look in the description, check out the blog for this one. You can actually have all the links there. So you want to set a security freeze by just calling them. And then sometimes when you do a freeze, they'll have a certain PIN, and a PIN is what they'll have to give whoever's calling in, or even you too later on. You're going to have to give it. You'll have a PIN which can say, yep, this is really me. You can freeze or unfreeze my credit report, because you have to think about it. The impact of a security freeze is certain reasons why you're going to even want to do a security freeze. You have to think about the impact. So a security freeze means that nobody can actually look at my credit report. No one can get my credit report. If I have a freeze on my credit report, it means that my credit report needs to be unlocked. And a trick for me to find out which bureau that a lot of these companies were going to apply, which bureaus they use to approve you for a credit card, is I always freeze my bureaus, or I just keep my credit reports frozen. I'll know exactly what bureau they're going to pull from. And then from there, I'll know, okay, that's the bureau, because they'll say, hey, we need you to unlock this credit report before we can approve you. That's a freeze. Nobody, even yourself, can get a credit card or any type of accounts, certain accounts, should I say, if you have a freeze on your credit report and they need your credit report. So that will be the impact of a security freeze. Like, nobody can get your credit report. You can temporarily lift it. Say if you want to apply for some credit cards, I'll usually call TransUnion and say, hey, unfreeze my credit report on this day, and just that one day, or unfreeze it now and put a freeze back on it tomorrow. I'll be done applying for all my credit cards today. Just automatically put the freeze on there tomorrow. So I know, hey, by midnight, I need to apply for everything, or I need to call back in. But you can temporarily do a freeze. And then also for Equifax, you can do it right through the app. Experian is acting funny now. They have some type of credit lock thing right now, and they're trying to make you pay for that. And we're going to talk about basically that this should be free. So Experian has some type of credit lock where they're trying to charge you. I will call and just say, hey, put a basic security freeze on my credit report. Sometimes they're going to say, do you want to put fraud alerts? You can just do a freeze in general, meaning nobody can pull your credit report. This is supposed to be free, you guys. We should not have to pay for something like this. And when I actually consider it if you have identity theft in the past, or if you're just going to not apply for anything in a while. If you know that you're not going to apply for anything in the next few months, say if I know I'm not going to apply for anything tomorrow, basically, or for next year, I need a freeze on my credit report. I can't continuously watch it to see if somebody took my information and was successful in getting approved for a credit card. I just put a freeze on there, and then I'll know that I'm good. So that's what you guys should also do too. Just make sure you have your freeze on there. When you want to apply for something, just remove the freeze and just do a temporary lift. So temporarily remove the freeze, or like I said, go right in Equifax and say, unlock my credit report, and then go right through the app, and then apply for whatever you want to apply for. And then once you're done applying for it, lock it back right away. But I just like to keep it locked, like on lock, unless you know exactly when I'm applying for credit cards, the exact time you can't get in there. And that's just because our information is being shared with everybody. It's to the point where, companies may already know our social security numbers, and you gotta think about how many hackers know this information from data breaches. So let's make sure that we keep locks on our credit reports. Is very, very important, and it's mandatory. Don't think that this is something I'd rather not. It's a requirement to me that you do have a security freeze on your credit report. I wouldn't go without it. Now that I know how valuable credit is and how you just don't want to mess around and find out. Well, let's go ahead. Hey, welcome to episode 197 of Credit 101. In this episode, we're going to talk about fraud alerts and how they can actually protect you. So if you guys don't know what a fraud alert is, what it is, it's actually just a notice that's placed in your credit report, and it informs creditors and it verifies your identity before opening a new account and extending credit. So think about it like this. If you guys ever have fraud, or if you are a victim of, you suspected fraud, or if you're out on deployment, having a fraud alert on there can just basically let creditors know, hey, listen, I had fraud in the past, or I possibly thought I had fraud, or I'm on deployment. Double check that this is me before you extend any credit. That's what I just think about when it comes down to fraud alerts. Now, it's different types of fraud alerts. I actually made sure that I took a snippet from my blog so I can show you guys, especially for those people that like to learn more or dive deeper. I try to be very vague in the videos in a way so that you can go and read more, because sometimes you don't know if you're listening to something that don't apply to you. But if it applies to you, then I definitely have more information, because some of you guys may not have to do fraud alerts, but you can go to the blog and learn more about it if you do. So the different type of fraud alerts is, you got the initial fraud alert. The duration of this is going to last about 90 days. It's available to anybody who suspects that they may have been a victim of fraud or identity theft. You can just suspect it. And let me actually take this down and say that when you can suspect it is when you get an email from AT&T or a company saying, hey, sorry, your information has been compromised, we are taking care of it. You can suspect it at that point too, because sometimes people can use this to their advantage. Surely. So if you just suspect it, like, that is a reason to suspect it. You getting inquiries, that's a reason. Then you definitely want to add the initial fraud alert. Now, you can have an extended fraud alert, and that's going to last 7 years. And this is from confirmed victims of identity theft or fraud. Like, this is confirmed. So you can get the initial one for 90 days. That's if you suspect it. But if you can confirm it, you had the identity theft or fraud, then it can last up to 7 years. Now, they actually have an active duty military alert, and I kind of just bulked it into a fraud alert, but it's an active duty military alert. It lasts 12 months, and this is for anybody that's on active duty. And think about this as like the initial alert, but it's designed for those in military service, and it prevents fraud. And the initial one is 90 days. This one is 12 months. So definitely, if you're on if you've been deployed right now, then you on deployment, you definitely should put that on there, because you're not going to be applying for credit. And just always think about, if you ever suspected fraud, you rather be prepared than not be prepared. Seriously, you don't want your whole life to be ruined based off identity theft or fraud. So fraud alerts can definitely protect you. You can also say, call me at this number. Like, this is my phone number. You can put different things in your fraud alert, especially if you know for sure that you have had fraud in the past, or people have your information, because we can't just change our socials. If you know what I mean, you have to just learn to protect it and put up extra barriers. So you definitely can place them. So the next question is like how to place them. You guys can just call each bureau literally and tell them to place the fraud alerts. That's all you have to do. Just call them, provide your personal information, and then receive some type of confirmation that they do have it in effect. Okay, so you want to make sure that they actually placed a fraud alert on there. And if you want to see your fraud alert, if you guys have an Equifax account, I just think Equifax is easier. This is where I really seen it. If you guys have an Equifax account, you want to know if you have one, or you want to like see when it's actually placed, go log into your Equifax account. And then I think when you look at your credit report or in the personal information section, you can see if it's fraud alerts on there. And then I believe you can actually place the fraud alert online. So call these bureau too and see if you can place it online, because now thinking like Equifax, you can place it online. Just have their online account, and they give you your credit score for free every month. So that's nice. And you can do disputes right through Equifax for certain things, because and if you guys do disputes online, then we're giving them, so you guys are giving them so many different rights, especially when it comes down to possibly suing them. But definitely you can place it online for Equifax, but just call the bureau. So the impact of a fraud alert, that's another thing that you need to know. So the impact of it is that the creditor is now going to verify that you are who you say you are. When your social security number is on an application and they get that fraud alert, they're going to really verify that you are who you are, because if not, they can get in trouble. We got permissible purpose when it come down to these inquiries. So definitely the creditor is going to now verify. And the fraud alert does not necessarily block access like a security freeze. If you want to make sure nobody can get it at all, then you need to do a security freeze. But it's just an extra layer of verification. Think about how when we log in, we got the password to a website, and then maybe they say, hey, I need to text you a code. That security, I mean, the fraud alert is kind of like that. The fraud alert, you can think of that as that extra code you got to get as verification. So keep that in mind. And it may impact your credit application. So you may need to provide additional documentation or answer different security questions when applying for credit. So if you guys have fraud alerts, understand that you probably have to go through extra steps. So when it comes down to fraud alerts, you can literally just call them and tell them you want to get them removed too. Say if you have a fraud alert, you find out you don't need it anymore, or if it's just too much, or whatever case may be, then you can have it removed. I believe, I don't know when this was, but I remember when I added a fraud alert on my credit reports because I had some problems with fraud. But I just feel like when I was applying for things, it caused so many different problems, and I just literally called them and told them to remove it. And unless you really do have fraud going on, you just probably shouldn't have it on the fraud alert on there, literally, because it just shows like right now I am having fraud problems. So they're going to be very like, see if they even want to give you cards and stuff like that too. That's my personal opinion. Now, the fraud alert versus security freeze. Don't forget, security freeze is a total lockdown. Like nobody's looking at your credit, period, until the security freeze is off. Okay, you can call the credit bureaus and have this put on too. And a fraud alert is just saying, hey, I know you got the application, you was able to pull my credit, but just verify that I am who I, say I am. Like double check with me because somebody else got my social, and it's a possibility that they could apply for this. And that's what I think about it. And I want to break it down in how I think about it, because that's how it is. Because you could just simply say a security freeze is nobody can look at it. A fraud alert just says, hey, call me, but think about how fraud can really happen, you guys, and be careful when it comes down to fraud. That's why I'm happy that we're going through these different sections. And I do have a 14-day free trial to a company called Aura. So definitely check them out because this is what they do. Fraud alerts and security freeze. And at first I didn't even think Aura was a big company until I was watching a basketball game. And I'm like, wow, they're huge. They're everywhere. They had them on some of their jerseys. I'm like, okay, this is amazing. But it's good to have those fraud alerts and security freezes and another company like Aura to help you look at anything else that could be hurting you or letting you know about these fraud alerts. But let's go ahead and check out my website, and I'll see you guys in episode 198.